Sunrise on Monday, another week starts. A familiar feeling, a weight on the heart.
Welcome back to I'm the Problem podcast, where we have honest conversations, we challenge perspectives, and sometimes we realize and identify that we are the problem. Today's conversation is near and dear to my heart. Most people have had the opportunities to see me as a hot girl. You guys have seen me as a fiance, as a daughter, a sister, and a friend. But what most people do not know is I'm a caregiver for my father. There was no blueprint. There was no step by step guide. There was really nothing that anybody could do or say that could prepare me for taking care of my father. Sometimes it is overwhelming. Caregiving can be a beautiful thing, but it also comes with being overwhelming, having emotions that you don't even truly understand. And then there's that fear of watching your loved one's health decline because you don't know what the next moment will look like. So today I am honored to have what most people may know her as Miyoshi, but I've had the opportunity to know her forever. She has been in my life probably since the beginning of time, and we call her Mimi. She owns and operates Mimi Care Services, and so we even had the opportunity to work together during the earlier stages of my father's illness. She was able to come in and help me with some of the day to day with him. So this is going to be a episode that is here to not complain about being a caregiver, but to share the emotional side and then get the professional perspective from someone who's in the industry, who's worked with several different families, to get that perspective. So come on in, y'all, and let's get started. Hey, Mimi, welcome to I'm the Problem. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited for you to be here. This is going to be, I think this is probably going to be my favorite episode. But before we get into all the details of the episode, I have to ask you, what season are you in your life right now?
I am in a very good season. I am in my becoming season. Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
love that. So, what does your becoming season look like? Give me a little more.
Okay, so as you know, I am the owner of Mimi Cares Personal Home Care, but I'm also the author of Broken to Becoming. So this season is my becoming season because I'm coming out of a broken season. So I've experienced a lot of hurt, a lot of things that just have happened to me over the last few years. So this, what you see now, is a product of me becoming. I have became.
And I absolutely love that. So,
Yes.
what we will make sure that we do is we get the link to the book so that we can put it in the credits so that after
Thank
people
you.
watch this episode, they can go and purchase that book. I think that's outstanding. And I am looking forward to getting my own personal copy.
Thank
I
you.
love that. So, I'm going to be transparent.
Okay.
I'm going to cut the script for this episode because it's personal. It's personal because being a caregiver, as you know, to my dad, it I cared for him in some capacity, and then my capacity grew unexpectedly. And today's episode, the goal is to educate people, to share my personal experiences, and
Hmm.
to get your professional and personal experiences. Because imagine if I had something or a platform like this to kind of guide me through those things. So live and uncut, we're cutting
Yes.
the script, we're going raw. I have never went raw on any I'm the Problem episode. So before we go raw, I do want to pray. And I've never prayed during a recording. I pray before the recording, but my spirit has been shifted. So God, I ask you as me and Mimi work on this episode that it touches the lives of other people, that this episode encourages someone, that it empowers them to know that they're not alone, no matter what their situation may look like, and to guide and govern this conversation to be a blessing to somebody else. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Okay, where do I want to start? What do you think about the emotional responsibility that no one talks about when you're becoming a caregiver? So, like for me, it was very emotional. I'm not a doc, I'm not a psychiatrist or counselor or anybody, but for me, I think I probably may have experienced some sense of maybe depression or
Hmm.
not being able to identify with myself anymore because my energy and my focus was governed directly towards taking care of my dad, you know? So just to give the people a little backstory, he was diagnosed with a muscle disorder around 2015. And shortly, after, we're probably in 2023 now, his health started declining tremendously and he needed 24-hour care. He had a stroke. And so he spent almost 90 days at Piedmont Fed Hospital. And the people was like, you got to take him home. We've done all we could do. They showed me how to use a peg tube. They got me set up with some physical therapy services and some personal care services, which weren't any good, by the way, just putting it out there. Um, However, now I'm at home with my dad being in a different space that he's never been in. He was NPO, so he could not have anything by mouth. And so, Mimi, you feel free to just kind of chime in on
Hmm.
what are we supposed to do as caregivers carrying that emotional responsibility, especially when it's unexpected?
So I would start with, it can be very difficult because you are now
Mm-hmm.
moving from a daughter who your dad has provided for you to now navigating life and having
Mm-hmm.
to be the sole provider and navigate for him. So those
Right.
emotions that you're talking about is very true. You do become depressed, you become overwhelmed. You're not really sure what to do. And then if you're not medical,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you don't understand what the diagnosis means. You don't understand how important it is to do this or to do that. So it can become very challenging and very trying. So the depression is normal. That is a normal feeling that you have. But also you got to, I guess, kind of take it day by day as well, because you want to continue to be the
Mm-hmm.
daughter, but you want to be a good caregiver as well. And it's good that you recognize that the caregivers that you had, they were not good. I mean, you have a standard of the type of care that you want your father to receive. So, I mean, it can be a
Right.
lot. It can be a lot of emotions. It can be a lot of stress. It can be a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
All of that goes into being pushed into a title that you have not, experienced before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also think for me, I took on this before I was 30. I think dad probably went down. I probably was like 27, 28.
Hmm.
So literally I had just came out of a long-term relationship. So trying to deal with the heartbreak of that and then turning into a caregiver, it was like the craziest part of my life. And it
Yeah.
also it kind of just gotten to the point where I didn't really know who I was. And then I
Exactly.
worked.
Yeah.
So I worked remote. Luckily, my job at the time was flexible because I'm like, look, my dad is now sick. I have to take care of him. And if you guys aren't willing to let me work from home, then I have to quit. Because
Hmm.
at that time, I literally just didn't know what was going to happen, what I was going to do. And so luckily I was able to work from home, but I was still in leadership. And so imagine being a caregiver, trying to deal with a tough breakup,
Hmm.
after being with someone for a decade. And now I'm a caregiver. That's a
Yes.
lot.
That is a lot. And
And
then,
I've never sat with it.
yeah. And then especially
Go
being at
ahead.
your age too, because you gotta think, you said you was 27. At 27, you're not trying to be a
Mhm.
caregiver. You trying to be out there living your best life. So I mean
I'm
that
trying to
that
be
was
a
a
hot girl,
lot.
Mimi.
Yes, that was a lot of
Yes.
emotions to take on. Like, I just got out of this long term relationship. I'm trying to be free. And now you're telling me that I got to turn
Mhm.
around and be a sole provider. And I don't even fully understand what
Mhm.
that means. So that's a lot.
Def wholeheartedly didn't understand what it
Yeah.
meant. And then, unfortunately, we didn't have the financial resources either.
Yeah.
Everything in this world, down from the biggest decision to the smallest decision, all boils down to, do you got the money?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's just real.
It is.
I remember we had hired, well, I think my dad on his own before he got to the really downside of things, he hired Morgan and Morgan
Hmm.
to help with filing for his disability.
Oh wow.
Because we knew of his muscle disorder at the time. And so, I think he was just thinking, you know what? At some point, we know this muscle disorder is going to deteriorate him. It's going to start with his arms, his legs, and then at some point, it will shut down his organs. And so, I think he was trying to be proactive. Well, Morgan and Morgan had the case. I don't remember for how long, but I can say that there wasn't much movement on the case. And so
Yeah.
now, fast forward. So when I have to take over, I'm like, we need resources. We've exhausted all of his PTO. After, and luckily, my dad had like 3 months worth of PTO.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a blessing. But, being like me, I use my PTO. Ain't none left over. When the year resets, I'm at zero, okay? Because I'm gone. I'm not working all the time. But for him, luckily, that was able to keep things afloat and whatever his PTO wasn't able to cover. Um, I picked up the slack. I was able to make sure, that I had food and things like that because he couldn't eat anymore. And so I remember filling out the Social Security disability forms, and it had been like 3 or 4 months. There was no movement. And I'm like,
Yes.
look, we're about to run out of PCO. He's now. And then somewhere during this time, and y'all bear with me, I can't tell the full story or we'll be here till forever. But I called Social Security. I'm like, look, well, I Googled some information. I being my who I am, like what there has to be something that disability can do that will override the normal wait times, for
Mm-hmm.
certain clients.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you would think this is something that was being told to me from the hospital, considering all of the
Mm-hmm.
things or even their case manager. So I guess Mimi, from your experience, do you have a perspective on why hospital case management d- why they don't share that information with people?
And I don't, and it would make things so much easier. So, like, I have a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
in there. I'm like, keep calling. Get on their nerves, make them know your name, but they don't provide it, and I don't want to make it. All right, all right. So let me be transparent. Sometimes I think it's us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's just us
Okay.
sometimes. You know what I mean? Because it's like
Okay.
some information is given to other ethnic groups, if that makes sense. So I
Absolutely.
yeah. So but if they shared that information, it would make things so much easier. But then it's like you gotta go and you gotta try to find out the information for yourself, and they're not helpful a lot of times. So
Mm-hmm.
you gotta try to figure it out. You don't have that support system that can kind of help navigate you through the system, which is one of the reasons why I try to learn as much as information as I can so that I can share it to my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
clients. So I can be like, hey, try this, go this route, do this. But yeah, they're not as helpful as they could be. So and they
Right.
tell you, because I've even been told, even with family members, oh, the standard is 45 days. Well, what if you're presented with a diagnosis and you may not make it for 45 days? You get what I'm saying? So what can I do to
Hello.
expedite this situation? Like, I need to know.
Mhm.
There has to be a corner that can be cut in a situation like this.
Absolutely. And so, one thing I want people to take from this, if you go and Google the Social Security
Yes.
disability benefits, there are certain criteria levels
Yep.
that they will start your Social Security while they're still reviewing the application. They are
Yes.
not going to tell you this. You have
Yep.
to call them, ask for a supervisor. It may take 10 calls. For me, I called 4 times. And finally, after I said, hey, I went online and I saw that if you fall under this criteria,
Yes.
you were able to get your benefits while your application is still being reviewed. That can happen, but you have to let them know that you know that information
Yes.
or your application will continue to sit.
And you can also ask for a applicant liaison. So if you don't understand the application process, or if you have a, like me, I work in home care. So everybody does not have family that can be appointed as the representative for them. You can call and get a
Hmm.
representative that can help navigate the application for you, and they will be able to explain it. They don't like to tell you that because they don't like to help. But you can ask for a applicant liaison where they will assist you with the application, because everybody doesn't have family, and there are those that are, they just don't understand how to complete the application. So that resource is available
Correct.
as well.
Okay, see, that's
Mm.
another side of it. Again, these are all things that you learn through trial and error. And of
Yes.
course, in your case, because you're building your legacy. And so you want to make sure your clients have as much information as possible.
Yes.
So I think that's really great that you were that you know that extra piece that can, kind of help navigate it for somebody else. Um, what do you think most caregivers struggle with in the current climate of taking care of someone?
Doing what they feel instead of doing what's best for the person. So I use, when I
Oh,
do my classes for families, I use this quote. What happens to the grass when the elephants fight? The grass suffers.
mm,
So if you are in constant battle because you feel like, I want mom to have this or I want dad to have that, but you're not taking
mm-hmm,
into consideration what is best for them, then they suffer. And I tell people that all the
mm,
time, like, try to remove yourself and your feelings out of the situation and consider what's best
mm-hmm,
for that person at that time. It may not look like your plan, but at the end of the day, you want what's best for them. You want them to be comfortable. You want them to be
right,
taken care of. And it may not be easy for you because you got to adjust some
right.
things and you got to have some lifestyle changes. But sometimes you just got to kind of take your personal feelings out of it and do what's best for the person that's receiving.
Um, so I think everything that you said was so powerful. Me making the decision to put my dad in a skilled nursing facility was probably one of the hardest decisions I had to make.
I'm sure it
I
was.
remember being in high school and my dad, we had to put my grandma there. Her dementia was just getting absurd. She was doing things like laying her hand on the hot, the stove, burning herself. And so at the time, he was also still working. And so it was inconvenient. And we didn't have, again, the resources for her to be able to live with us. And so he put her in a nursing home and I hated it. I'm like, I'm used to being able to go and see my grandma whenever I want to. And I always said as a younger child,
Mm-hmm.
I would not do that to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I don't have 6 or 7 siblings to depend on. So when it
Yes.
came to making sure he stayed clean, making sure the laundry was done, it was just me. I had you to come in and help, but again, it's about the financial resources.
Yes.
And when you just don't have that, it's only so much that you can do. And so it was not my decision. It wasn't a decision that I personally wanted, but I knew that based on where he was and what was going on with him being able or unable to do a lot of things for himself, I could no longer continue to carry all of that on my own. Um, it's a sucky situation. I hate the skilled nursing facilities. I always have. I always will. But I had to also, and like you mentioned, I had to think about what was in the better care for him. And I also think that part of caregiving is just realizing when you've reached your limit.
Yes.
Because once you've reached
Yes.
your limit, that's it.
Yeah. And I commend you on making that decision, Joni. I really do. Because what happens is, so many people, they feel like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But again, it goes back to what I said. Then the person suffers. But because you're trying to keep them at home, they're lacking something. Whether it is lacking just the nourishment, whether it's lacking being changed every
Mm-hmm.
4 to 6 hours, being turned every 4 to 6 hours. They're lacking something. So I definitely commend you
Mm-hmm.
on making that decision. Although it was not an easy one, it was probably the best decision for you, for your mental state, for your sanity, and for the care of your father. So, I mean,
Right.
you did the right thing, and you're right. The facilities are not always the
Oh,
best,
girl.
but you have to do
Yeah.
what's best for you and for your dad. Because if you're burned out, then your dad still suffers. And then he's feeling the weight that you're carrying. So, you don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
depressed. He doesn't want to see that for you. So,
Mm-hmm.
I commend you on making that decision. Although it was not an easy decision, it was a necessary decision. And, I'm sure he thanks you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
And
was
it's okay to
I don't
feel
know,
that. I mean, that's just your emotions. You're an only
yeah.
child.
And
You're
some
doing
days
the
I
best that you
do.
can do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some, I've had to over the years make peace with that.
Yes.
Um, I still wanted to live my life. And if God makes me a millionaire tomorrow, he can come home because financially, I would have the resources for someone to be able to care for him while I still go do me.
Yes. Yes.
This year, I made it a point I wanted to travel more. I'm not waiting on no friends. I'm not waiting on no
Yes.
family.
Yes.
I'm gone. So I have made it my point. I want to travel each quarter. And
Yes.
so I think back to what things were like for me when I couldn't even go up the street to the bar because, legally, you can't leave a bedridden person in a space alone. So I
Hmm.
can't go just grab drinks with my friends. And so now I have that flexibility. And over the years, I've made peace with it. There are some challenging days still because, like you said, healthcare has changed.
It is.
I remember healthcare from a little girl. It was personable. People took their time and people did the job because they wanted to make a difference. And the patients and their family was the center of that. We don't live in that world anymore.
We do not. We do not. So we don't have the Dr. Travises anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
that. So now it's all about a claim and not a person. But what claims are being
Correct.
filed for medical services? It's not about, oh, I know your family. Let's do this. Let's do that. So it is not. I mean, and the resources are just not there. Insurance don't cover like they used to. So it makes it very difficult
Yeah.
financially to provide 24-hour care
Hmm.
for somebody. So it's
It
very
does.
difficult.
It's and
Yeah.
it's the invoices are crazy. And
Yeah.
it's worth it. So so I want to make sure that everybody is understanding.
Yes.
If it's something that you have the financial resources for, it's absolutely worth it to
Yes.
keep your loved one at home and to have someone come into the home and cover all of the bases. But for me and my situation, my dad had several illnesses. So he had a muscle disorder, he has dialysis, and then within the last year or two, we've now increased. He has some respiratory issues. And so, realistically, it's just not a good fit.
Yeah.
Especially with I think the dialysis was okay when he was at home with me because he could go out, go do his thing, and I could have some alone time. But now with the respiratory and the trach tube, he needs to be around in a more professional setting 24/7 because anything with respiratory issues can happen. And
Right.
unless I'm willing to build a house that's like a hospital, it's null and void, right?
Right. And you want to keep down that infection control, especially when you're dealing with respiratory issues. You want to make sure that his space is sanitized, and not saying that, your home or something like that wouldn't be clean, but when
Hmm.
you're dealing with respiratory, you want to make sure that they are getting the top-notch care with that, because it can go from bad to worse real quick. So again, you made the
In a
best
matter of
decision.
seconds.
Yes, you made the
Right.
best decision for your situation. Yes.
Right. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you feel like families don't really take into consideration during the early stages of kind of like planning or preparing to take care of their loved one.
Okay, so I'll use myself as an example. So my mom has a few medical issues, and she now has dementia. So in the beginning, I think with me and my sister, when the doctor was telling us, "Hey, you need to start preparing for this," we were like, "Oh, she'll be okay. She'll bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
She always do." So we
Mm-hmm.
didn't really take heed to the suggestions that they were making. Well, of course, life
Mm-hmm.
hit. So my mom actually progressed faster than they expected. So needless to say, she
Mm-hmm.
had several strokes. We wasn't ready, you know.
Right.
So it was like I would recommend, I would say, if the doctor is saying, "Hey, these are steps you need to start taking, look at this option right now." It doesn't mean you have to do it, but explore those options. Get a plan ready. Get a plan ready if your mom, if your loved one has a stroke, or if they have to be hospitalized for you. Like, you're the only
Right.
child, so everything falls on you. For me and my sister, we had to create that work balance. Well, in the midst of all of that happened, my sister had the stroke and she became disabled.
Oh
So,
wow.
right. So now I'm navigating my mom, my sister having her illness. So, it can be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
She's okay. But I would just say, have those hard conversations. You know, Nobody wants to talk about the latter part of your life, but it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. Mom, if this happens, what do you want? So, like, I've had that conversation with my kids. So, if I get to a point where they can't provide for me, this is what I want you to do. You know what I'm saying? So that they don't
Right.
feel guilty about
Right.
making those hard decisions. But I would definitely say, have those
Right.
conversations now. Talk to your doctors now, especially if it's something like you said your dad had like the muscle disorder,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
conversations, if somebody else is dealing with that, have those conversations now. What does it look like long term for that, so that you can kind
Right.
of come up with
And
a
I definitely
plan.
think
Mm-hmm.
we should have did that. Because they told us, right? And
Yeah.
again, at the time he was fine. He was
Yes.
still getting up, going to work every day.
Right.
He was still making sound decisions for himself. And
Mm-hmm.
so in that moment, just like you guys, it's gonna be fine. Well, no, what we should have done was put a plan of action together. We should have
Yes.
been saving so that in the event that he was being taken out from work or whatever, we could have been properly prepared. One thing that I do know also did help us was at the time, I think it was still Atlanta Medical. So this was before it transitioned over to Wellstar.
Mm-hmm.
They offered a critical care plan.
Okay.
And so what happens with the critical care plan is I think it's included in your, insurance premium that you pay, monthly or whatever. But what happens is in the event that you get sick and you're in the hospital for a certain amount of days. So everybody, I am not an insurance person. I am not a employee to help you, but just look into your resources because it's verbiage on there that if you spend
Yes.
X amount of days in the hospital, you can get, for us, it was a $15,000 check. So that was great. We were able to pay up some bills. I paid off some of my dad's debt with it.
Yeah.
I also paid myself in full transparency because I am your caregiver. And in the state of Georgia, and Mimi, correct me if I'm wrong, if you go and and do the process, I want to say do the process, you can become a caregiver and the state will compensate you for that.
Yes.
But it is a lengthy process. And so those financial resources, I paid myself, an amount that me and my dad was able to agree upon. Um, and then I think immediately after, I was able to do power of attorney. So
Yes.
that'll bring me into my next question. Mimi, do you recommend for if you have older parents, or you know what, I don't even think older parents matter. Would you recommend for families to go ahead and put power of attorneys in place before anything happens?
Absolutely. Because let me tell you, the thing about the power of attorney, you can always update it. So,
Hmm.
yes, my sister and I, we did that as far as my mom, like finances. My sister is over her finances. I'm over her medical care. And the
Hmm.
reason being, my sister is the finance person. I'm the medical person. So it only made sense that we
Right.
do it that way. But absolutely, because if anything, things can happen at the drop of a hat, and you want to always be prepared. And the thing about the power of attorney, you can always update it as things change. You can take away or you can add, but absolutely you should always have, I think everybody should have a power of attorney, even if their family members or their
Absolutely.
parents are okay, still have it in the event that something
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
That happens. And then the other thing I would recommend to people also is go to the bank, put your name on your loved one's
Yes.
accounts, because
Yes.
what happens is some of these banks, and because of the fraud and the climate of the world,
Yes.
they are making it harder and harder to do what we need to do. So obviously, because of everything that I went through with my dad, my grandma, which everybody knows I call her Mimi as well, and my mom, I've been on their butts. Hey, I'm putting my name on this account. If something happens, I don't have time to, well, first of all, if you pass away, they're going to shut the account down. I got to provide a certified death
Yes.
certificate, go through that process, file paperwork with the court. If you don't have many assets, I'm not going to the court to file a petition for administration or it's
Oh, it's
letters of
and that
administration.
process
I'm not doing those
alone
things.
is long. That process alone is horrible.
It's a
Yes.
headache. And
Yes.
I used to work in probate court, so I'm very aware of how time consuming it is. And then you have to report to the courts what you're spending the
Yes.
money on, their annual summaries that you have to do. So to eliminate all of those things, go to your bank immediately and put your name on there as an authorized signer. I'm on my mother's account. If something happens to her tomorrow and I need funds to take care of her and to make decisions, those things are already
Yes.
in place. That is very important. If you're dealing with someone who gets benefits from the state, again, once they are made aware that this person has passed away, they are locking the account down and
Down.
putting the
Yes.
funds on hold.
Yep.
This is serious
Absolutely.
business.
Yeah.
So just don't wait, y'all. It can be a lot, from emotional,
Yes.
financial. It could just, it could be heavy. It's no way to avoid that. Um, but I think now that we've kind of talked about some of the challenges, I won't call them bad things, but the challenges, what are some of the rewarding, or what is the more beautiful side of caregiving for your loved one that you've been able to experience and see with your business?
Just being there, because a lot of times that's all somebody wants you to do is just show up. um I speak a
Hmm.
lot about dementia because majority of my clients have dementia, but even with those that have
Hmm.
dementia, they just want to feel important. So that's the reward
Hmm.
of coming in. And although you know the challenges of them not being able to remember, even those that are disabled and they can't do the things that they are used to doing, you make them feel important at the space that they're in. So you don't remind them of the disability or the challenge or what they can't do, but you just focus on
Right.
the day to day, just making them feel good. So that's the rewarding part for me. Anytime I can go into a family's home and I get a smile or I get a thank you for helping me, I mean, it just brings my heart joy. And the business for me is more
Right.
than a business, it's a ministry because I want to educate families, but at the same time, I want to be that safe space for the client. So just being
Right.
present. Yeah.
And being involved.
Being
Yeah.
involved.
I
Yes.
think I can second that. My dad loves for me to come and visit.
Yes.
Which is why this new update or this new transition that we're going in is going to be a little difficult.
Hmm.
But they want to feel visit, they want people to visit so they feel loved. I've done a party for dad a couple times at the nursing home. So
Yeah.
if you have a loved one that's in a nursing home facility, you can still have parties. Get with the person in the department. I think I've had two parties. One, I did a full catering situation with decorations. And then
Mm-hmm.
last year, I just kept it real simple. We just did cake and ice cream. But just to have, people travel from all over and to come in and show them that love and support. And so I would, challenge anyone to do that, regardless of what space you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Still make room to celebrate that loved one, because those are moments that if they've never cherished it before, they're going to cherish it now, and it's going to make all the difference in the world.
Yes.
To have
And if I
them,
can make a
feel that.
suggestion too, that
Hmm.
is great. And another thing that you can do pictures of love. And what you can do is just only if that facility allows it, because some of them, they have restrictions. But you can do pictures of love where
Hmm.
you can ask your friends, your coworkers to send a letter and a picture of themselves, and it can just be a brief letter. Hey, I was thinking about you today. I hope this letter
Hmm.
finds you at a safe space, and then that way they feel like that they're being thought about just by other people. So sometimes that can
Yeah,
make all
I
the
love
difference
that.
too. Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely, I love
Hmm.
that. Um, what are some lessons that you have learned being in your ministry?
Lessons that I've learned is the biggest one is patience. Um,
Mm,
I can go in and I can take care of anybody's family member, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, I love it, but to see my mom decline, that's why I can relate to
mm-hmm,
you on some of the things that you feel.
mm-hmm,
So it's taken a lot of patience to see her in this space that she's in. Um, Me
mm-hmm.
realizing that with her dementia, she honestly does not remember some stuff. So just me being
Right.
patient with redirecting her, helping her to remember, even just being around other people. So the biggest lesson for
Mm-hmm.
me is patience.
Now, how are you balancing where you are with being a caregiver for your mom and building your business? What do you do to stay balanced and grounded? And what do you do when you're just having a challenging moment, because you're still human? You're still human as the owner and the operator, and
Yes.
you're still human as the daughter. What do you
Yes.
do to stay balanced?
So pray. I will say that. I pray. I call them my sister circle. So it's
Mm-hmm.
about five of us, and I
Mm-hmm.
go to them for encouragement. I go to them for uplifting. I go to them for prayer. We go out just to eat, just to redirect. And I did have that moment, Joni, because it's like my mom was sick, and then my sister had her stroke, and it scared me because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's gonna become. So I literally drove
Right.
down to Callaway Gardens. I needed a moment. I told I had to have somebody sit with my mom, and I drove to Callaway Gardens, and I went to the beach, and I screamed. And I just know those people was like, what is wrong with this fool? But I had to
Right.
release, and I had to get it out. And I
Yeah.
just went and I just yelled and screamed to the top of my lungs as loud as I possibly could, because I had to
Right.
release that weight. I couldn't allow it to consume me. And then I told myself, look, I'm giving you 24 hours, 24 hours to grieve, 24 hours to cry, 24 hours to be sad, 24 hours to hate,
Mm-hmm.
24 hours to be angry that all of this happened. And after
Right.
those 24 hours, you got to put your big girl panties on. You got to go be supportive for your
Mhm.
sister. You got to go be the caregiver for your mom. And you got to go be all that you are for the rest of your clients. And that's just kind of what it is. But you
Where
you
you
got to.
landed.
Yeah, so friends are important. So I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
my sister circle, because if I didn't have them, I honestly don't know where I would be.
Listen, I completely understand. I used to try to hide what I was going through with my dad. I believe it or not, people are going to be surprised that this is on camera, but I do not like people seeing me in a vulnerable state. There was a long time in my life that I felt like vulnerability was a weakness. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until I went through therapy that I realized, girl, vulnerability is the most superpower you could ever have. And I still struggle with it. Although
Hmm.
I don't look at it the same way, I still struggle with it. And so when my dad first got sick, I just went ghost on everybody. I wasn't
Mm.
posting on social media. I wasn't
Yeah.
answering phone calls. Like I was still trying to figure out how to deal with it on my own. And so in doing that, um, I just stayed to myself. But once I got to the place where I could talk to my friends and I could go and cry and I don't have to have on this, I refer to it as the cape all the time. I don't have to
Yes.
have this cape on. I can take this cape off. I can show my emotions. And so I think friendships, like you said, all the
Yeah.
things, friendships, and you got to have a prayer life. You know, whoever
Yes.
it is you pray to, I'm not going to, guide people on that. But I know who we pray to. And I have to talk to God because a lot of times my emotions and my mental state and my anger and frustration, especially dealing with people in the skilled nursing facilities, you can get very frustrated very easily.
Yes.
Because if it was my way, I would just do it myself anyway. But I'm depending on you guys to give him the level of care that he deserves because regardless of what he can do or cannot do, he is still a human. And he deserves to be treated, with the best care possible.
Yes.
And so I
And like
think
you
that
said,
is
he
head
deserves to be
on.
treated with respect as well. Like no matter what his situation
Right.
is.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And people don't understand about my daddy. I go to war, but that's either one of my parents, like we're just okay, the light don't want to cooperate. But no matter, it's just we are children trying to navigate our parents in whatever space that they're in. And
Yes.
so they deserve that. Um, well, I did really good. You did outstanding.
Thank you.
I thought I was gonna cry on this episode because it's a lot going on. I did get a little teary eyed, but you
Yeah.
you reeled me back in, because sometimes it's okay for people, or people don't realize that even as caregivers, we need somebody to have our back. And
Yes.
it's good to see that someone recognizes that although it wasn't my most favorable decision, that
Mm-hmm.
ultimately I did make the best decision,
Yes.
that I could make. So before we wrap up this episode, I do have a couple more questions
Okay.
for you, and these are censored just for you.
Okay.
Um, tell the people more about the services you offer and about what made you want to get into this business of personal care, because that's not an easy job, and
Yes.
it's the fact that you have joy when you're talking about it. There are a
Yes.
lot of people that get into businesses for the money and not the people, so I just want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So, I got into it initially when my dad was sick. So my dad was sick, or
Hmm.
and he was at a facility, and they were
Hmm.
horrible. Honestly, let's just be clear. Like, it was just a horrible
Hmm.
situation, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I can do this. You know what I mean? I can do this on my own.
Right.
So that started the vision of Mimi Cares
Hmm.
Personal Home Care. In 2010, I had a brain aneurysm. And my
Hmm.
neurologist was like, "Oh, go prepare your family. You a ticking time bomb." Like, who says that to somebody? Yeah,
Who says that?
yeah. He was like, "Oh, go enjoy your life. You're a ticking time bomb. We don't know when your aneurysm can burst at any time." So I was like, you know what? I was able to see it from both ends, from at some point maybe needing care and how I would want to be treated, and then with my dad
Right.
seeing the care that he needed and how I would have done it. So that's what started the whole thing with Mimi Care's
The
personal home
vision.
care. And I wanted to be interactive. I didn't want to just come in and be a face. Oh, I'm here to do your bath, or I'm here to administer medication. I want it to be interactive. So everything about my business is interactive. So again, I am the owner of
Right.
Mimi Cares Personal Home Care. We are a interactive agency. And what that means is we interact on whatever level you're on. My staff may show up with a shirt with a big S on it. And you're like, okay, what's the
Hmm.
purpose of the S? Well, if I'm dealing with somebody that has memory problems, hey, do you know what letter this is as we're pointing to the letter? Can you
The
name three
shirt,
words with this?
yes.
Can you use the word in a sentence? Can you tell me what color the letter is that's on my shirt? So everything we do is interactive. Even so much as going outside, let me help you garden, or just anything. We try to provide those interactive services to create a more personable experience for anybody that we're dealing with. So that's kind of what started it, why I have so much passion,
Right.
and yeah, so that's what we do.
That is well, and I love that. And so I want to make sure that we put emphasis on the interactive because
Yes,
that's something these people aren't doing.
yes,
Um, and so I think that alone is outstanding because what better way to continue to provide the services, but to take it a step further because we're going to meet you where you are and we're
yes,
going to try to give you some type of normalcy because the person sick deals with the emotions of their health changing and trying to accept that. But then from the caregiver side, you also are going through those emotional changes. And so something as simple as a t-shirt with colors
yes.
is providing some type of normalcy for these families during their time of need. So I absolutely think that is outstanding.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your time. You could have been at the beach today, but we made time to make this happen. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. To our viewers, the prayer at the beginning and the prayer at the end is that this conversation challenged you. Know that you're not alone. Know that we will have Mimi Cares link at the end of the video. Please reach out to her if you or your
Thank
loved
you.
one is in need. And don't be afraid, y'all. If today's conversation challenged you, if today's conversation made you uncomfortable, and just in reflecting, if you know someone who's a caregiver or if you are a
Mhm.
caregiver yourself, don't be afraid. Just come back and join us here at I'm the Problem. Until next time, y'all. See y'all later.
Yes.
They say I'm the problem, a familiar refrain. What if the problem's the pattern, the pain? Let's unpack the moments, the whys and the wins. Welcome to I'm the Problem, where the real talk begins. One in a finger, it's easy to do.